The High-Speed Rail Authority has a new chief executive officer.
Yeah, the job has been vacant for a while.
And
that was Roelof Van Ark, who he resigned in January.
So guess who they hired? Remember we told you this is all about insiders sticking their face into the taxpayer trough? They hired an executive from a company with a $200 million contract.
Yes, the project's lead consultant company is called Parsons Brinkerhoff.
And here's the executive, Jeff Morales.
Who used to be executive director of Caltrans. God, how incestuous. Well, so these are the people with the experience that we need to boldly lead the Boondoggle into the future. Really?
So let me see. Parsons Brinkerhoff gives Morales away to the High-Speed Rail Authority. Now, when you're CEO of a public agency, one of your jobs is you must hold down costs with your contractors. Well, how's Morales going to do that when he worked at Parsons Brinkerhoff?
Yeah, and look at the next sentence. At Parsons Brinkerhoff, he was in charge with coming up with the authority's business plan, which included the cost estimates, the funding sources, and those wonderful rider projections. So you've got to be kidding me. This is not a fresh face. This is just another inside hack.
He's the guy who created all the lies. The ridership estimates, the costs, the funding sources.
There aren't any.
There are no funding sources. The ridership estimates, we have been proven to be wildly overstated, just flat out invented. It was a big lie. Same thing with the costs. They were just making up numbers. So the guy who signed his name to all that is now running the public agency. That's great.
Yep. And apparently they prepared the most recent business plan, which, of course, is the one where, and I like the way Doug LaMalfa, the state senator, put in the press release, that has a smaller, slower, and twice the price of the high-speed rail project promised to voters back in 2008. Because, as you know, even though they lowered the price tag down to $68 million, that's not what people were promised in 2008. They
lowered the speed.
And they lowered the speed.
It's now low-speed rail.
This is the blended approach plan that came out, that they're going to start using other tracks from other rail lines and call it high-speed rail. Or someday it will be high-speed rail, we promise, lie.
Low-speed rail. Low-speed rail. And
the big idea to connect
cars.
The Antelope Valley to, like, Bakersfield that we all need, that we've all been pining for. Oh, I've always wanted to get from Palmdale to Bakersfield on a high-speed rail. Thank God.
This is so bad. This is so offensive. This is so wrong.
I don't know what's going to kill this thing.
I wait. Well, the lawsuits eventually will. They may get a little track laid down with the initial money, but after that, it's going to sit there.
Dan Richard, who is the chairman of the board of High Speed Rail, says, "I think we made a great choice here. I think this is the right person to move us to the next level." Oh boy, which is what, off the cliff? So we should all feel good about that, and I certainly do. By the way, they're working out a starting date for this guy, but the approved salary range for his position, $375,000.
Whoa!
But there's more. His total compensation package, $404,388, making it one of the state government's top-paid non-university positions.
And people ask, how can you be so cynical? This is easy. How can you be so naive and stupid as to believe there's anything but dishonesty going on from beginning to end in this project? You hire the guy who invented phony ridership numbers, phony costs, phony funding sources, and you give him a $500,000 package? When he's working as an executive for one of the biggest consulting firms on the project?
Morales was, at one time, Caltrans director appointed by Gumby, Gray Davis.
Yeah, there you go.
He left 3.5 years later when Davis was booted out of office.
Same turd swirling around the bowl.
He replaces, as we mentioned before, the South African Roelof Van Ark. I like the way this story is written. I think it's in the Mercury News. Van Ark, a South African, was hired in May 2010 as an engineer extraordinaire with experience building high-speed rail systems elsewhere in the world. But his poor communication skills and lack of government experience proved costly. His staff kept him away from reporters in public meetings as he struggled to win over an increasingly skeptical public. Shortly after coming on, Van Ark drew rebukes. Rebuke! Rebuke! Did people actually yell that? from an already angry Peninsula crowd when he twice referred to the project's final solution, a Nazi-era term, and sometimes alienated critics by rejecting their suggestions through dismissive letters.
Well, he's got nothing.
Of course, he was a Schwarzenegger appointee.
This is, though, like blaming the Obama administration attorneys for bad performances before the Supreme Court. When you don't have a case to sell, you're not going to come out looking good. This new guy doesn't have a case to sell either. You know, when you have this boondoggle based on lies, and you don't have a funding source, and you're never going to get enough writers, and it'll never be able to pay for itself, it kind of doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter who the spokesman is, what brilliant mind is running the agency. The fundamentals are lies, are fantasies.
By the way,
they made this stuff up so they could all profit individually from it.
Did you know that the High Speed Rail Authority has been around since 1996? 1996? What year did we vote on it? 2008?
They had trouble getting it on the ballot for many years.
I didn't know it was that many.
Yeah.
Mehdi Morshed was the first director. He was there from 1998 to 2010, and I remember he came up in a few stories saying that the business plan, and this is not what people voted for. He's been a big critic of the high-speed rail.
No, it's phony now. They just want to spend the available money to give it to the unions.
Yeah, the jobs, the payoffs.
And then all the insiders are going to stick their faces in the trough. And then the thing goes belly up in a few years. But at least for those few years, you'll have people looting the state for $10 billion. You see, you have to, at the base of this is there's a bag of $10 billion sitting in the middle of the Central Valley. It's $10 billion. Who's going to show up to grab the money? Political insider crooks and union goons. And they're going to run to the bag, pull out the money, build a few miles of track, and go home.
Just to show you the incestuousness of this, the state senator Doug LaMalfa, who, by the way, the website is revoterail.com. And, of course, he's going to begin circulating petitions to collect signatures to allow us to vote again on the boondoggle. He writes, Morales' hiring is not the first time high-speed rail has faced questions over conflicts of interest. At least one board member received over $10,000 from Parsons Brinckerhoff just before being appointed, while another was found to own property close to areas proposed for rail station development. Parsons Brinckerhoff also provides an employee stock ownership plan, although it is unknown whether Morales holds a direct financial interest in the company. He's making the point that now that Morales has hopped from the top consulting company for the high-speed rail to be the actual CEO, how many favors will he do for Parsons Brinckerhoff now that he's left?
All of them. That's why he's there.
That's why he's there. All right, when we come back, we'll move from the boondoggle to a wonderful institution known as the Cal State University system and how they spent over $2 million renovating the palaces of their school presidents.
This is another shocking story. Unbelievable how much money is blown on these Cal State presidents. I mean, it's stunning. Another reason to vote for that tax increase, huh? John and Ken, KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio.